Yeah. Yeah. I get Tuesday off, but man, you got to work so hard to have Tuesday off. It's almost not worth it sometimes. But it's still good to be able to have an extra day off. Today we're going to talk about some freedom. So I hope that's all right. You like freedom? So it's pretty cool. We're gonna. If you weren't here last week, we talked about Peter. And you may have to refresh me because there's been a lot take place this week. So, how many of you remember what exactly we talked about that was here last week? Remember, like with Peter, what was it, Sam? Tell us. Yeah. She's always dying to say something, so I thought I'd give her an opportunity. Yeah, we talked about Peter and how he denied Jesus, but then Jesus comes back later on and he asks him 3 times, "Do you love me?" And Peter's like, "Yeah, you know I love you." And he asks him again, he said, "Yeah, you know I love you." And he asks again, he said, "Yes, Lord, you know all things. You know I love you." And Jesus was saying, "Well, then feed my sheep." But the third time when Jesus asked Peter that, Peter was hurt. Peter was crushed. It hurt Peter because there's something that took place before the crucifixion where Jesus told Peter, "You will deny me." Peter said, "No, there's no way, man. I'll do anything." And then as they were leading Jesus, we're going to read it. And as they were leading Jesus, Peter did what Jesus said. But there's a little bit more to this story, and so we're going to hit on that today. So if you missed last week, you need to go back and watch. You need to go back and watch it, and after we're done, you don't have to immediately go have some lunch, don't pass out on us or something like that. But go watch it, and it'll catch you up because there's a lot of stuff going on in this story, and I think it's really cool. So anyway, we're going to read that. We're going to start in Luke chapter 22, and we're going to start in verse 31. And I'm going to try to read this to you. My reading skills aren't the best, so just so you know, and if yours aren't the best either, that's perfectly fine. So anyway, so 22:31, if you're there, says, excuse me, this is a red letter, so that tells us that Jesus was speaking. If you have no red Bible, and if you don't, then it's okay. I'm telling you that it's Jesus speaking here. It says, "Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift each of you like wheat, but I have pleaded in prayer for you, Simon, that your faith should not fail. So when you have repented and turned to me again, strengthen your brothers." Peter said, "Lord, I'm ready to go to prison with you, and even to die with you." Okay, so this is the Passover meal. This is the Last Supper in the upper room or whatever. And Jesus is telling them these things, and then so Jesus is telling them. He says, and it's funny because Peter used to be named Simon, but Jesus renamed Simon to Peter because Simon means like shifty or like the sand, like shaky or whatever, and Peter means like rock. But it's funny that Jesus he doesn't call him by Peter at this point. He calls him Simon. He says, "Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift each of you like wheat, but I have pleaded in prayer that your faith shall not fail. So when you have repented and turned to me again, strengthen your brothers." And I think it's really cool that Jesus renames the disciples. Because, you don't have to end up with the name that you started. You realize that, right? Like, you may start one way in life, but you don't have to end up that way. That's good news. That's good news. Because Jesus brings that freedom. What do you get? Excuse me, God. Now I'm going to skip on over real quick. Skip down to 22:54. We're going to read this real quick. So, what's happening here? Jesus tells him, Peter's like, no, man, I've got your back. I'm here. I'm ready to go to prison with you, even to die with you. And skip on down. Let's see here. Let's see where we let's skip. Let me read this. After that it says, but Jesus said, Peter, let me tell you something. Before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will deny me 3 times that you even know me. Y'all see that? Peter's like, no way, man. And Jesus is like, yes. Let me tell you something, boy. Before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will deny me 3 times. Skip down to 54. We're going to skip some other stuff. Let's skip down to 54 over there. 22, 54. We're going to read here. So they arrested him and led him to the high priest's home. And Peter followed at a distance. So Peter's already. You ever you and your buddies come up with this plan, and then all of a sudden you start after and you're like, oh man, I'm not sure. Thank you so much. And then you're like, oh man, I'm not sure. Anybody ever wrap houses before? Toilet paper wrap people's houses? Yeah. We used to do that all the time. All the time. We always got the teachers' houses. And there was this one time. So if you ever need something to do, I know a few teachers in here that like that. So that's cool.
Don't do it.
I'm just kidding. Sam doesn't do it too, though. I don't know if she looks like. We were going to go right up to Caesar's house sometime, and we had this plan. We had this massive amount of toilet paper that we were going to unload on her yard. And we had this plan. There was a big group of us. There was a bunch of us. And I remember going, when we took off that night to go to her house, I remember having this weird feeling man, you probably shouldn't go. And I remember getting nervous, I rat houses a million times. We call it rat houses. I don't know if that's what I call it or not. A million times. But this one time, I had this feeling, here we go, we're all dressed in black and, big old trash sacks of toilet paper, and we're walking down, and I'm thinking, something, I don't know, man. And so, I kind of slowed up a little bit, but then I kept going, and we were at her house so bad, and we started heading back, and we could tell there's another car parked by our car. We thought, what the heck, who is that? So we kept going. There's a cop sitting there. And he gave us, apparently she's seen us call the cops. We told them, don't bust them yet, So he wrote us all a ticket there. And then one friend was kind of mouthy, and I thought he was going to end up going to jail over it. But you ever just have this, and you kind of have that gut feeling, I better hold back, I better hang back. But no, you go ahead and do it. No, I just have this feeling here, Peter starts falling into this. He knows this is not going down good. And he already knows in his head, he's already fallen back on his word a little bit. You know what I mean? He just told Jesus, no, man, I'll go to prison, I'll even die. And now, it starts getting real. But it's okay. The guards lit a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat around it, and Peter joined them. A certain girl noticed him in the firelight and began staring at him. And finally, she said, this man was one of Jesus' followers. But Peter denied it. Woman, he said, I don't even know him. After a while, someone else looked at him and said, you must be one of them. No, man, I'm not. About an hour later, someone else insisted, this must be one of them, because he is Galilean too. But Peter said, man, I don't know what you're talking about. And immediately, while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed. Immediately, while he was still talking, the rooster crowed. And at that moment, the Lord turned and looked at Peter. Suddenly, the Lord's words flashed in Peter's mind. Before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will deny me 3 times, that you even know me. And Peter left the courtyard, weeping bitterly. You know that had to hurt. You know that hurt. You know because inside you know I'm all in. I've got your back. I'm here. I'm with you. I've got you. But when it gets real, and you start to fall back just a little bit, and then what makes it worse is Peter does it, and I think he does it, and then all of a sudden realizes, oh man. I asked a question, I think it was last week. How many of you are exactly where you thought you'd be? Exactly where you thought you'd be in life. I'm not anywhere near where I ever thought I would be. I never thought I would end up in some of the situations that I ended up in. I never thought some of the things would happen to me. It was always, it happened to them, it never happened to me. I feel like that was kind of one of those moments. When Peter, he knew, like, he before this, Peter would have said, no, maybe John, but not me, Jesus. You're my man, I got this, I got you. You know what I'm talking about. Hey, man, whatever you need, just give me a call, let me know. Hey, I'm moving this week, hey, what are you doing? You know. You see, you find out how many friends you got when you start moving. Trust me, I've been there. I know. Hey man, I'm going to jail. Sorry, buddy. Told you not to do it. Told you. It's funny because we all do it. We all say, oh, I've got you back, man. I'm here. But then when it gets real, when it comes to it, oh man, I'm sorry, man. My phone died and I didn't realize you called. Or, oh, I'm sorry, I see your text and I totally forgot to respond. No one here is guilty of that at all. I'm just playing. Or you wake up a few minutes late for work and you think, you know what? I worked late yesterday. I'm showing up late for work today. They owe me. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it? Like, we start justifying things sometimes. We say things, but we don't mean what we say. And we don't say what we mean. I think Peter is caught in this. I gotta get my notes. I got off track. I know you can't believe that. There's something here I want to point out. Now I'm going to go back just a little. It's on the next page, sorry. I'm not going to find it. Skip on down to chapter 24. We're going to be in verse 5. I know I'm sitting around a lot. There's something big here. See, it crushed Peter. But something I want to point out is Jesus singled out Peter. Said, Simon, Simon, before the rooster crows, you're going to deny me. And I found this really interesting in here. And then Peter does what Jesus says, that Peter said he wouldn't do. But then, we have Jesus crucified and he's put in the tomb and everything, and then he's resurrected. And in 24 it says, I guess we can start at verse 5. Actually, let's read all 24. But very early on Sunday morning, the women went to the tomb, taking the spices they had prepared. They found that the stone had been rolled away from the entrance. So they went in, but they didn't find the body of the Lord Jesus. And they stood there puzzled. 2 men suddenly appeared to them, clothed in dazzling robes. The women were terrified. They bowed with their faces to the ground. Then the men asked, "Why are you looking among the dead for someone who is alive?" Why do we do that? Why do we go back to the old ways, to the same ways, what we used to be, what we used to have to find life? Why do we keep going back to the same bar, to the same past to find life? When things aren't going good, when we're hurting, we seem to go. We like to go to the things that are actually holding us down instead of the things that are giving us life. He is here. He is risen from the dead. Remember what he told you back in Galilee. See, and I found it interesting. They went back with their spices and stuff, like they didn't believe what Jesus had already told them to begin with. See, Jesus made a promise, not a prediction. He made a promise, not a prediction. He isn't there. He is risen from the dead. Remember what he told you back in Galilee. The Son of Man must be betrayed into the hands of the sinful man and be crucified, and that he would rise again on the third day. Then they remembered that he had said this. So they rushed back from the tomb to tell his 11 disciples. Now, I found something interesting in Mark. And I'm going to flip over here. You don't have to flip if you don't want to. Just real quick. Did I get that to you, Susan? Mark 16:5. Because Mark records it a little bit different. And I found it extremely interesting. When they entered the tomb, they saw a young man clothed in white robes, sitting on the right side. The women were shocked, but the angel said, "Don't be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He isn't here. He is risen from the dead. Look, this is where they laid his body. Now go tell his disciples, including Peter." That's really interesting to me. Why does Mark record that way? Because Peter, again, here is singled out. Remember, Jesus just singled him out amongst the others. Like, you're going to deny me. But then, Mark records it, go and tell his disciples, including Peter. Hey, go get those guys and make sure you get Peter. That's what I feel like he's saying here. When Jesus was in the courtyard and the rooster crowed, said he wept bitterly. He wept bitterly. Like the kind when you know you just totally disappointed yourself. Like the kind when you realize you're in the exact situation that you said you would never be in. Like the time when you realize you just totally let your kids down. Like the kind of weeping that you do when you totally let your spouse down. or even the weeping that you do standing in front of the tomb, wondering if the sale ever be over. He wept bitterly. Because here's the thing. Jesus told him, you will deny me. And guess what? That's all that was stuck in Peter's head. I did exactly what I said I wouldn't do. I did exactly what I said I wouldn't do. I'm right where I said I'd never be. I failed. And he let that part stick in his head. And he couldn't get it out. And so he's weeping. He's hurting. He's crushed. He's mad at himself. He's disappointed in himself. You know that feeling. You know what I'm talking about. There's been times, there's circumstances that we face, there's issues that we face. We find ourselves in certain circumstances or situations that we said we'd never be in. That we swore to ourselves we'd never go down that road. See, Peter got the promise. There's another part we always skip over. Go back to Luke 22:31. It says, Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift each of you like wheat. But I have pleaded in prayer for you, Simon, that your faith should not fail. So that your faith should not fail. That's why Mark records it different. He says, and make sure you get Peter. Because Jesus has proven his word to you. He's about to show you something. See, you're going to fail. Jesus doesn't say, he said, Satan has asked to sift each of you like wheat. But I have pleaded in prayer that your faith should not fail. He didn't say I pleaded to keep you safe, to not let you fail, to not let harm happen. He said I pleaded that your faith would not fail. He didn't say that I wouldn't let you fail, I wouldn't let your faith fail. Jesus is pleading that your faith won't fail. But here's the big part. Here's what changes it all for me. So when you have repented and turned to me again, strengthen your brothers. He knows you're going to fail. See, Peter forgot that part. Peter forgot that part. Peter forgot the promise that when you turn back, it doesn't say if you turn back. It's when you turn back. I'm so glad that it's when and not if. That's big news. That was big news to me. That was huge. Not if, but when. Look, you may screw it all up. You may totally mess everything up. You may go down the wrong way, but the whole time God is working to edge your path right back on to where you're supposed to be. But you may take that wrong turn. You may do the things you said you would never do. You may find yourself in the place you said you would never be in. There's freedom in this. He didn't say that you wouldn't fail. He said that I'm pleading for your faith to not fail. And he said, when you turn back, I'm going to be right here. When you turn back. Not if, it's when. You see that? You're going to mess up. And it's okay when you mess up, guess what? He's calling you back. He's calling you back. back. He's calling us back. That's the gospel. That's the good news. Jesus didn't predict. He didn't just predict. He made a promise. He made a promise. Your situation, your circumstance may look like defeat to your enemies. It will look like defeat to your enemies. The cross looked like defeat. The cross even looked like defeat to his disciples. Peter said, I'm going back fishing. That's what we talked about last week. Peter said, I'm going back fishing. And he took all his buddies with him. I'm going back. I'm going back to where I was before Jesus walked in. See, this whole story, there's so much here. I should have done this one and then last week. Peter said, no, man, I've got you. And then he ended up exactly where he said he would be. And he said, go get the disciples, including Peter. And then later on, when Peter decided that he's just going to go fishing, I'm just going to give up on all of it, I'm going to go fishing. And then Jesus shows up in the same way he showed up the first time. He tells him to put his net on the other side of the boat or whatever, and all of a sudden they're catching all this fish. And Peter knows. Peter just jumps out of the boat and takes off. Jesus asked him those 3 times, do you love me? Peter said, yeah, you know I love you. But remember the whole time, Peter couldn't get that out of his head, that rooster crowing. That rooster crow, that's like that haunting thing that you just can't get rid of. But then Peter goes on and preached one day, and 3,000 people came to know Jesus. See, God took that broken man, that broken pastor, and done something. Even when he ended up exactly where he said he'd never be, God still used him. And not just a little bit. Peter led one of the biggest movements in history. So don't look at your failure as failure. We can look at the cross 2 ways. We can look at it as defeat, or we can look at it as victory. And you can look at your failures the same way. It's no different. But God screwed some things up. I've messed some things up. I've said things to people that I wish I'd never said. God's not giving up. There's more to the story. There's more to come. Your defeat is a victory. There's victory in your defeat. That's exciting to me. I don't know. I feel like that'd be something to clap over or something. I would be excited about because there's victory in your failure. Because guess what? When you fail, sometimes you got to learn things the hard way. Sometimes God's trying to show you something that if you don't fail, He can't show you. Because sometimes when you don't fail, you don't get to experience the grace. If you don't fail, you don't get to experience the grace. If you don't fail, you don't get to experience His love and His mercy and the power to pull you out of it. That's big. I don't know, that was exciting when I read that this week. I was excited. I read that and I was like, got it, done, got it. And I was excited. I was excited to share it. That's all I got for you. I don't know where else to go from there. I'm divorced, and I'm exactly where I've never imagined myself being. I have totally jacked some stuff up. I have totally messed some things up. But I'm still right here. I'm still here. See, it's not about us having God's back. It's about Him. It's about Jesus having our back. And if we would quit putting so much energy and effort into trying to plan out our path, we put so much energy and effort into planning out our path that we don't have the energy to follow it. We put so much effort into what we're going to do that we can't do it because we didn't work out the details beforehand. We didn't even consider the logistics of how things are going to work. But what if we put in that amount of effort into what God's plan is? What if we actually seek God's will for our lives? What would it look like? What if we actually did? What if we actually meant what we said and said what we meant? What would happen? I can't imagine. I just can't imagine. I think it'd be pretty cool. I think it'd be pretty awesome. So let's do it different. There's freedom in your failure. There's freedom in what you feel like maybe you can be. There's freedom in that. And this is the weekend we celebrate freedom. Might as well start celebrating some freedom. Let's break free. Let's let go of some chains that are holding on to you. Let's quit carrying the weight that we weren't designed to carry. And let's live a little bit more free. Okay? Let's do that. Let's be a little bit more free. Let's give Jesus a hand for making promises and not contradictions. I said this was going to be short. It was pretty short. So maybe we get hot dogs and hamburgers and stuff a little earlier, wherever we go. It seemed like a good day to cook out for me instead of just, so it's good to decide. Let's live as though we're actually free. Because we are. We're not bound by anything. We're only bound by the things we allow to hold us. Alright, I'll pray real quick and we'll be done.